Welcome. I hope you all settled, you found your seats okay, had a nice cup of tea or coffee. I'm going to get started now. I'm just going to talk through some logistics and then I'll introduce Alex, who will probably welcome you and really kick off induction properly. So just a few boring logistical points. If there's a fire alarm, it probably will be a fire because it's certainly not going to be a drill. So make sure that you leave through this door here, or this door at the back, or this door at the back. And if you just go towards where you parked at the back, there's netball courts, so you can gather on there and wait for the stop. Fingers crossed, that won't happen. If you need to toilet, I think most of you have found them. They're just outside this door here on the left-hand side, and we'll make sure that there's more tea and coffee for you in the breaks as well. Just right at the back, between those two canteen tables, there are some taps if you need some water as well, because there's a lot of people in here, so we'll get a bit more. We're going to start together this morning, and then we'll split off into different groups a bit later on. So there will be, well, with so many of you, it will take long. On the slide there's a couple of points about compliance and finance. If you have any questions, or if you have any documents that you need to show compliance, you're going to go to Amy, who's over here, who will be based out the front here, and you can do that in one of the breaks or at lunchtime, so that they can check your documents and answer any questions that you've got related to finance. Hopefully you will manage to access the Wi-Fi. It's a brand new Wi-Fi network that we've set up over the summer, hopefully. So I think the key thing is you want the SOBS one, and then you have to click register, and then it's sending you your own individual personalised login details for today. So if you have any trouble with the Wi-Fi, do let us know, and we'll make sure to help you out with that. Okay? I think that's everything. This is the outline for the day. We've got a summary of this on the tables as well, but you can see the most important point. We're going to have a break at 10:45, and you're going to move off into slightly smaller groups. Lunch will be at 12:30 till 1, and then there will be another very short break at 2. It is a jam-packed day, as you can see. So make sure you keep yourselves fed and watered as we go through, and hopefully you'll get loads of information and a lot of stuff today. Okay? Right. I'm going to hand over to Alex, who's director of DTAs, who looks after all.
I really do appreciate that you've probably come through traffic, or you've been on public transport, probably already for 2 hours before the day started. So we really do appreciate us all gathering together. Hopefully, when I say a bit more about kind of our vision, you'll understand why we've really wanted to gather you all together. But we're absolutely delighted to welcome you here to SJB. And it's lovely to all be together, all the 6 hubs, to have our big induction launch. So thank you so much for being here. Great to see you all. So I'm just going to say a little bit. I've heard thrown around and not really understand completely what it means, that name, accredited provider. So we, Xavier Teach South East, are your accredited provider, and our mission is to ensure that every single one of you gets the absolute best training and support to nurture your development over the training year. That's our main mission, to make sure you get the absolute best training and support. We come under Xavier Catholic Education Trust, and Teach South East and the Teaching School Hub both come under that. And the Teaching School Hub is for the ECF and MPQs, which I'll say more about in a second. Catholic Education Trust, and Xavier development across all the stages. Xavier's core value is that every single child deserves an excellent education, and we strive to do everything we possibly can to make sure that we are laying the foundations for all those children to get a great education. We got an outstanding award in February 23, and we'd previously got one in the years before that as well. So outstanding across the board in every aspect of our provision. And from then, we really decided that it was time to stop our training just being purely in Surrey, which is where we kind of birthed Teach South East in this building when there were 12 trainees to begin with. We decided it was no longer the right thing to do just to stay in Surrey as Teach South East, and actually we should roll out our provision into other parts of London and Surrey and Sussex and Berkshire to ensure that we're really giving more children the opportunity to have great teachers in pockets of the country in the South East where there's a real shortage and no training providers. So we've branched out and rolled out our provision into different areas. So we now have 6 regional delivery hubs in Surrey, London, Berkshire and Sussex, so that we can extend our vision to this wider geographical area. Our view is that if we provide great training, we'll provide great trainees, they'll become high quality teachers for the local area, and that's something that our schools are crying out for in all those areas I've just mentioned, and you are going to be plugging those gaps with your brilliant teaching in the years to come. I mentioned that we're part of Xavier and I mentioned the Teaching School Hub, and our vision for teacher development is that it begins before ITT. Some of you might have done internships and sort of school experience. And it goes right through to headship and even sort of CEOship with Xavier. So our view is that we're going to provide high quality evidence-based training and extensive bespoke pastoral support, and that can carry on throughout your whole career, not just this year, but that you can be doing this until you are CEO of a big trust. So you can see from our sort of golden thread of teacher development that it starts with pre-ITT. You are obviously going to do your ITT year, where we strive to be the very best in the country, and where you'll have hugely experienced and knowledgeable individuals within the central team and within your hub teams delivering your training. And then next year you'll start the first of your 2 ECF years. And then there's further opportunities for further CPD and MPQs. And Amy Harper runs the Teaching School Hub. And I don't know if anyone wants to say something about access to the Teaching School Hub in future years, because this is something we access throughout the years as your career progresses.
Thank you very much. How exciting to see you in the room. And really, I think the main message from the Teaching School Hub is that you're going to be looked after super well over the next year by the Teach South East team. But the Teaching School Hub is really going to be your consistent from now all the way through your career, whatever your career development needs might be, whatever your guidance and advice needs, and that the Teaching School Hub is there, whether that's to provide all the programmes that Alex has just talked about further on in your career, or actually just come and have a chat to us and say, I'm a bit stuck in my career, I don't know which way to go. So it's really just a message of the support doesn't stop once you stop coming to us on a weekly basis and once you've got your QTS. Whether you like it or not, we're here to stay. And our mission is very much to keep you in the profession and to keep you happy and supported in the profession. So we look forward to being able to engage with you through this year and then beyond as well.
And as you can see, we're in really good hands, not just in this year, with all our staff colleagues around us, in the years to come with the Teaching School Hub. So just a bit more about us as accredited provider and the difference between us and regional delivery hubs. So as your accredited provider, we award, so Xavier Teach South East award the QTS, the Qualified Teacher Status, at the end of the year. Therefore, we have overall responsibility for your training, your progress, your qualification over the year. And your regional delivery hub, and I'll introduce them all in a moment, will be, or just hub as we'll probably call them from now on, it's a bit of a mouthful, will be delivering the Xavier Teach South East training in each of the local 6 hubs. So we sort of plan the curriculum, and then the regional delivery hubs deliver the training on a weekly basis in your local area. So don't worry, you don't have to come here every week in case you're thinking, is this where I need to be every week? Because this is a trek. No, this is the only time we all gather together in one room, apart from graduation. And then we do it all again at the end of the year and celebrate, as we've just done in July this year. And your hub lead, who you'll meet today and spend more time with, your hub lead will have the day-to-day responsibility for your training programme. They will go through all their roles later, and sort of you'll get to meet them properly, and you'll get to meet your hub properly later. And they'll talk about exactly what they're going to do. And then the other sort of key role in school is your skit lead. And again, your hub lead will talk through that, and they're the person in school who will look after you. But your hub lead will look after your training on a day-to-day basis. You won't have an awful lot of kind of communication with us as a sort of central provider. It'll be mainly your hub lead will be giving you all the kind of key information. So just a really quick introduction to the accredited provider team. We've got Joanna giving us a wave, probably taking photos for social media. Joanna's in charge of recruitment, marketing and communication. Amy, you've just met, who's the director of the Xavier Teaching School Hub. I'm Deputy Director of Teach South East. Sarah's in charge of curriculum. Sam is over there in charge of mentoring. Katie is in charge of, well, Katie is the hub lead for Surrey. And as the accredited provider, she's in charge of assessment. Natasha is primary curriculum, and Emily is probably over in the other building, or signing people in, is our recruitment manager. And then I'll not go through all the intricacies of each hub, but basically I'm going to get the hub leads to give us a wave. So for the Borromeo hub, Elaine is the hub lead, waving there. Thank you, Elaine, for the Borromeo hub, based in St Charles College in West London. And then Renu is the Greenwich hub lead at the back there. Hi, Renu. And that's based in Heronsgate Primary School in East London. And then for the London hub, Sheila, there you are, Sheila, along with Nick, and ST Cats hub lead is Al Nicol at the back there. Thank you, Al. And then the Surrey hub, as we've said, is Katie Gonforth, is the hub lead for Surrey. And Sam and Tash are your people to go to in primary, because they sort of look after the primary training. And Josie will also be looking after your training as well, if you're secondary, sorry. And the primary training is based in St Joseph's Catholic Primary School in Guildford, and secondary training is here. I should have said that Al's training is based in St Anthony's in Slough, and the London hub is at Cardinal Vaughan Memorial School. And then finally, we've got Graham, who's the Sussex hub lead. Graham's over there. Thank you, Graham. And Sarah's there with the primary trainees at the back, leading on the primary in Sussex, and primaries at St Mary's in Worthing, and secondary is at St Philip Howard in Bognor. So that is all our introductions, and you will learn more about your hub lead, and like I say, you'll meet with your hub later. So we've got some time this afternoon where after lunch, where you'll be actually in a separate room just with your hub. So if you're feeling like, I got separated because there were extra chairs put in and I'm not sat with my hub now, don't worry. You don't need to be with your hub particularly for this bit in the morning, but this afternoon you will be just with your hub, and that's where you'll really get to know the people in your hub and your hub lead, and you'll have some proper time with them. So don't worry if you got separated from your hub right now, it doesn't matter. You'll all meet up later and you'll be able to catch up with them and properly get to chat. So really, I just wanted to say, again, a huge welcome. It's so great to have you here. It's a lot of information today. There's a huge amount, and you know, you will feel sort of slightly mind blown by the end of the day. Hopefully inspired, hopefully with loads of ideas, and hopefully really excited and invigorated for the training year ahead. But there will be lots of information. Please don't worry. It's normal that you'll feel a bit overwhelmed. And just to reassure you that everything we're saying now, we will continue to drip feed over the days and weeks and months ahead. You don't need to retain every single detail from today and think, if I've forgotten it or not written it down, I'm going to be in trouble and it's all going to go wrong. That won't happen. We'll drip feed everything. The key thing, and you'll hear this repeated later, is bulletins. Bulletins will tell you everything, and we'll tell you that every week in the bulletin, everything you need to do for the next bit. You'll never have anything sprung on you, or there won't be any surprises. You won't ever feel like, I wasn't told about that, or why don't I know in advance? You'll get everything drip fed and reminded about all the way along, I promise. And like I say, you get the opportunity to meet your fellow trainees both here, where you're sort of slightly mixed up together, and then later with your hub, as well as all the people training you, you'll meet over the day, who are all going to be doing various presentations throughout the day. Do take the opportunity to chat to people, connect, network, see who else is travelling, you know, to and from places. Maybe you can lift share if there's you know, you're both going to the same school and only one of you has a car and that sort of thing. You might find opportunities to kind of make journeys easier and that sort of thing, as well as you know, meet the people you're going to spend the year with. So just have a really good day. We're all on hand if you've got any questions or worries throughout the day. Please come and see us, and we'd love to talk to you. And I'm going to hand over to Sarah now. Are we using this one? Sorry. Oh, okay. Right. Okay, I'm with you now. We were saying about drip feeding, and we're going to do a little bit of that to start off, because I don't know how you're all feeling after the summer break, but I seem to have left my brain in Italy, I think, somewhere. So we're going to start with this little session, the Evidence Informed Practitioner 2, which follows on from one of your summer tasks, which was the Evidence Informed Practitioner 1. And in that, you were introduced to 2 key pieces of literature, and that was linked to the curriculum. You may have that fresh in your minds, but I suspect it might be buried somewhere. And so we're going to have a look through as a reminder to start us off. So the aim really is to re-engage or engage with the Xavier Teach South East curriculum, which is central to everything that we do, really. So just to get your brains in gear to see whether any of this is lingering there, I'm going to give you just about a minute to see if you can remember any of those areas of intent. You might want to just scribble them down on you can go on the, well, you've got paper in front of you. I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to gather us back together. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That's going to be my signal to get you refocused. So if you have a neighbour that hasn't noticed and they're chatting away, give them a polite nudge and then they avoid embarrassment. Anyone remember them? Anyone remember 8? Anyone remember? Oh, yes, we've got a hand. Well done. Excellent. Very impressive. Okay, we're going to whiz through them as a little reminder. So our first one, mental health and wellbeing, which we put right at the top because that's so central and so important to everything we do, to make sure we're all looking after our mental health and wellbeing. We're helping you to do that, and also the mental health and wellbeing of the pupils in our care. Then the teacher as a professional, which is all about how we conduct ourselves professionally, and how we make sure that we're inclusive, we embrace diversity, safeguarding, and so on.
Then we go on to the evidence-informed practitioner, where we are flagging up the importance of being a profession that is evidence-informed. So we're using the very best evidence that's available to help us make decisions in the classroom. The next one, subject and curriculum design, is about putting the general skills that we're learning in our general professional studies, how we go about teaching. We're putting that together with our subject knowledge so that we know how we will do that actually within a subject. Then we go on to, did that come up? There. Oh, see. Then we go on to positive classroom culture, which is about ensuring that we've got happy and motivated pupils who really want to learn and feel safe in the environment of our classroom. After that, we've got effective lesson planning, and you're going to learn more about each of these today and how we can effectively include all the elements of a lesson so that we are making sure that all pupils can engage with the content and that we are not leaving anyone behind and that we're doing things as we should be. Ways in which pupils learn is using the evidence of cognitive science, really, and all that we know now about how we actually learn, how we put things into long-term memory, and how we actually retrieve things out of our memory. And then the H, adaptive teaching, is about making sure that every single pupil in the classroom is supported if they need support, when they need support, everyone is challenged so that everyone is making progress. And then the last one, pupil progress, is about making sure that we're constantly assessing the pupils so that we know, are they making progress? Are there any gaps in their knowledge? So that everyone is continuing to the same goal. Another little reminder, within each of those 9 areas of intent, there are a number of impact statements. So these are statements that break down the elements of that area of intent so that you can see what it is that you are working to develop. And you'll be assessed against these areas of intent at the review points. To make sure that we are training you effectively to develop into really effective practitioners, the curriculum is fully integrated to make sure that it flows successfully and develops throughout the year. So the main thing about the integration that you'll see on a weekly basis is that you have areas of focus, which are the curriculum focus, which will be flagged up each week to you. And you'll see within your general professional studies training that there will be a focus on the curriculum focus. That will also be taken through into your subject training when you're looking specifically at how to teach a subject. And then it will flow through in that week into everything you do in your place at school. So all your interactions with your mentor, your actual teaching in the classroom, any training that you receive within school will refer to that focus. That will inform targets each week so that you can make progress, and ultimately that's helping you to prepare for the review points when you're assessed. One of the sort of key documents that shows you what is going on in your general professional studies, so the sort of kickstart to that integration each week, is the GPS training overview. And all these documents that we'll mention are all going to be available once you get onto the platform Mosaic. But what you'll see each week is the focus, the curriculum focus. You'll see the GPS training sessions, and you'll see the key literature that you're going to engage with. And that enables you to see what's coming up in the future, but also to look back and see what's gone on in the past, to remind you, so that you can then access all of the training resources and so on Mosaic. What you'll really use above anything else, really, and Alex mentioned the bulletin, and you'll get a weekly bulletin, which will really help you keep up to date. But even more important, really, than that now is the training plan on Mosaic. And each week, the training plan will tell you exactly what you're meant to be doing. It will give you the curriculum focus that we've talked about. It will give you the GPS training sessions. It will tell you the literature you need to read, and it will tell you the key areas within the curriculum that you're going to focus on in your subject and your placement school. So that training plan is absolutely key to all you're going to do. There will be 4 periods of time over the year where things will look a little bit different, because you will have a period of just over 2 weeks where you will have a focus called intensive training and practice. And this is a new part of provision that the government has brought in, and all providers will in different ways be delivering intensive training and practice. Now, this is a really good move forward. The government have done something right here, in that it's enabling you as trainees to have some extra specific time to really delve a bit more deeply into 4 key areas of the curriculum. And those are areas that we have selected. So the 4 we've selected, you can see here, and start with positive classroom culture. Now, one of the big challenges and often big concerns of new teachers is actually how you're going to deal with behaviour, how you're going to establish a really positive classroom culture so that you actually can preempt any poor behaviour. And so we kickstart with this intensive training and practice, which we actually start tomorrow. And so you're going to have extra time where you're going to be delving quite deeply into aspects of positive classroom culture. Then we go on later in this term to look at questioning. Term 2, we're going to have a look at scaffolding to support all pupils to make progress. And then in the 3rd term, we have a look at some aspects of how pupils learn. So during these couple of weeks, on these 4 times over the year, things will feel a little bit different. Obviously, you'll hear all about it and where you're meant to be and what's going on as we go through each of these. But the intensive training and practice, I should have said, is snappily known as ITAP, because it's much easier and much quicker. So you'll actually hear us always referring to ITAPs, intensive training and practice. So in an ITAP block, your GPS and subject training will all focus around the ITAP focus. You'll also have additional days of training in the ITAP block where you'll be out of your placement school, and you'll be provided with all of those dates and where you're going to be and so on. Additionally, your interactions with your mentor will also focus on that ITAP. So that's something that will just feel a little bit different. All of the resources, everything to do with training will be available on this magical platform, Mosaic, that we keep mentioning. And I would say one of the really important things to start off is to really familiarise yourself with Mosaic so that you kind of know your way around, and that'll be your real go-to. And that's where the training plan, the magical training plan that tells you everything every week, you'll get really used to accessing that. So I'm hoping to hand over to Sam, but everyone seems to have disappeared. No, here she is magically. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Sam, and you're going to hear much more about Mosaic and many other things.
Hi everybody, lovely to see you all. As Sarah said, I'm responsible for mentoring for Mosaic Teach Others. So all interactions with your mentor, any issues with mentoring in school, your hubby to help me, but I'm here also to help them hear me. Am I holding this again? I don't normally use mine, thank you. So we're just going to have a little look about mentoring, and we're going to sort of also cross over into some weekly tasks you'll need to do. And basically tonight, this gives you an overview of everything you need to get ready for next week. I met with pretty much every single one of your mentors. We had mentor induction before the holidays. They spent a whole day with me talking at them, but they have been fully trained on everything that I'm going to tell you today. Okay, so it's going to be new for you, but a lot of our processes have also changed for mentors. It's new for them as well. So they're fully trained, and so you will be able to support each other. Okay. So we're going to have a little look at what your week will look like, what you can expect from your mentor, top tips for building positive relationships with your mentor, the support structure, and then Katie's just going to demo this thing called Mosaic, which we've been talking a lot about today, and hopefully that's going to really put your mind at ease. Mosaic really is your one-stop shop for everything, so once you've seen that, you'll know exactly what's going on and what you need to do. So Sarah touched on our training plan. This is a new function for us this year, and it's amazing. It's the one place in your week you need to go to that will hold all the information that you need, okay? It's where you'll make your notes and reflections on training and other conversations you have with expert colleagues. It will tell you what you need to do to get prepared for the week ahead, and so it really, really will be the place you'll go to. So, as it says here, it outlines your journey through the training week. And the most important thing to remember, because we've got lots of different hubs in here now, everyone trains on a slightly different day of the week, okay? But your training week starts on the day of your GPS, your general professional studies. So in Surrey, primary trainees, we come together on a Thursday, so that is day one of your training week. Okay, everything filters on from there. So don't worry about what week commencings. So day one is your training day, okay? The training plan is your responsibility to complete, okay? Your mentor has access to it and your skip lead has access to it, we have access to it, so we'll be able to see how we're using it, and your mentor will use it to understand what you've been asked to do that week and how to guide conversations. But the training plan is your responsibility to complete and keep up to date, okay? So it's the one thing to note there. It is important that you do this every week, okay? Because we have Wi-Fi access and it's all remote, you can be making your notes during training, you know, you can think about your reflections. So it won't take you a long time to complete, but it does form part of that assessment towards your qualified teacher status in the year. So we also will be keeping a track of, in our hubs, the completion of those. We kind of get a monitoring page. So if we can make sure we're doing those every week, that would be absolutely brilliant. So as you can see on the board here, it just gives you an outline of the thread. So as I said, GPS training day, that on the training plan is day one, okay? So you're in the mornings, you will have general studies with us, how to plan lessons, how to manage behaviour, how to monitor progress, all those kind of things, okay? And that will feed then into the subject that you'll do in the afternoon. So you'll see the first, and this will make sense when Katie shows you later, but you see what we're going to cover, then you see how it goes then into the subject. You'll see then how it goes into what we call skip lead and mentoring. So each school will have somebody that will be responsible for trainees in their school. We call them skip leads. Some schools call them slightly different names. And you'll also have your mentor as well. So then you'll make reflections on the discussions you have with those people in school based on that theme of the week that Sarah was talking about earlier. Basically, the rule of thumb with Mosaic, if you can see a box and you can type in it, you need to type in it, okay? Because if you're not meant to type in it, you won't be able to. Okay, so if you can do it, and then you'll be absolutely fine. At the bottom of the training plan, it will also then give you any pre-reading or any task that needs completed can be completed for the next week. So as long as you follow that and you tick off your to-do list at the bottom, you're all going to be good. Okay, the wheels fall off when we don't look at the training plan. Okay, because then you won't know what's going on. And as Sarah mentioned as well, you will receive a training bulletin every week that will have key reminders about dates that are coming up. But the training plan will really be the place you'll go to for all that information. So Katie will demo that later and it will become far more clear. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about mentoring. Because your mentors really are going to be the key people really in your journey, because 80% of your time is spent in schools with your mentors or with your expert colleagues that you're in school with. So it's really, really important that they're fully trained, and they have been, and they will continue to be throughout the year. But building those relationships with them is really important. They are going to be your go-to person. And we tell mentors, you know, you're going to be their counsellor. You're going to be the person that comes to and cry on your shoulder when things aren't quite going right. They're going to be also your mentors that really build you up, because they're going to see the best of you as well, and they're going to see all that progress. But they're going to be the person you go to for a lot in school. Your mentor will also assess you ongoing progress weekly and formally at our review points, okay? So by, we'll talk a little bit in a minute about target setting, but by ticking off your targets every week, your mentor is basically saying to us, yes, they're making progress, because they are meeting the targets that I've set them, okay? And then at assessment points, which happen at October half term, and then at every end of every term, they will do a formal assessment like you do with your pupils in school, in class. And they'll let us know how you're getting on. So that's really important, that relationship, because they are judging you as well about getting your QTS at the end of the year. So mentors have been told this, and what's really important is you understand what you are entitled to, because it is an entitlement. You're on the course, okay, and your mentors have signed up, and there's arrangements with schools, and this is what you should be getting every week, okay? I'm going to say this, and I'll say it time and time again. If you are not getting what we have told you, okay, it might be 1 week your mentor's ill, and we can forget that week. Some things happen, but if week after week you're not getting these things, it's really important you talk to your hub lead, okay, because we will then step in. We will also see it on Mosaic, so 9 times out of 10 we've already picked it up before you've even told us. But please make sure that these things are happening. So you should be getting 1.5 hours of mentoring a week. Okay, that comes in the form of one formal mentor meeting, which probably normally lasts a period about an hour, give or take a little bit of time. Okay, and that is where you're going to think about target setting. That's where you're going to think about reviewing and talking about all that you've learned with us and how you're going to implement that. That might be where they share some practice with you and demonstrations with you, and we'll talk about it a little bit later as well. But that one mentor meeting is really important, because especially if you're a salary trainee in here, that might be one of the only times you see your mentor. Okay, so it's really vital that thing is happening, and you log that on Mosaic on the training plan, so we know that it's happening. Every single trainee should receive one formal observation on a formal observation form every single week. Okay, so the formal observation is much more detailed, and we will go through this, but you get more of a sort of, not minute by minute, not that quite idea, but at 10 o'clock this happened, you asked this question, this went well. So it's much more detailed, but also your lesson plan is more detailed. So, and again, for our salaried or apprentice colleagues in here, that's the only observation you might get in a week, so that must happen. You must get one. If you're a fee-paying trainee, and hopefully you know which route you're on, but if not, we can clarify that later. But a fee-paying trainee, you'll be given an informal observation booklet. So for every other lesson you teach, you should have somebody in your classroom, if you're fee-paying, okay, your mentor or the class teacher, and you should be getting feedback for every other lesson that you have. Okay, and that's also really important, because if you're on the fee paying route, it might be it's because you've got slightly less experience, okay, and you need to be getting that feedback all the time. So we need to make sure again that is happening. On the back of that formal lesson observation, you should be getting some verbal feedback. So that makes up the additional sort of half an hour. So your mentor should sit down with you, go through the feedback from that one formal observation, and then you talk about what went well, how it could have been better, and you'll set some targets as well based off the back of that observation. Okay, so the main things are, you should have your mentor meeting, you should all have a formal observation with a formal observation form, and if you're fee paying, every other lesson should be in your informal observation booklet. Your mentor will also be checking your folders and your SKA, your subject knowledge audit. I'm going to come on to that in a minute. And when I say folders, when we all trained, we had to produce, I still got them in my loft, 5, 6 ring-bound folders. You are not producing that. They're virtual folders on Mosaic, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about what you need to upload to that now. There isn't very much you have to do, but your mentor will be checking that happens, and they'll also be looking at your subject knowledge audit too. So these are the things that in the mentor meeting, your mentor has been trained on, and that should be happening in every mentor meeting. When you go onto Mosaic, you will see this on your training plan, and you can tick off when each of these things have happened, okay? So that's a really good way to remind you and your mentor what they should be covering in that mentor meeting, and also a way for us to make sure that is happening. So the first thing they should be doing is checking in with you, because we all know, because you're all here, you know it already, it's an amazing profession. Yeah, we've been in this for many years, and we all know how incredible it is. We also know that this year is going to be tough, and you are going to have peaks and troughs, and it'll be a real roller coaster. So the first thing we ask mentors to do is to make sure you're okay. Yeah, are you eating? Are you managing to see your friends during the week? Are you carrying on with those hobbies that you love doing? So they've been asked to check in with you there, and they will let us know if they've got any concerns. Okay. The next thing they're going to do is review your targets. So in a mentor meeting, you'll set targets, and in the following week, you review them. It's your mentor's responsibility to do target setting on Mosaic. They're the only ones that can do it, okay? Because they are the experts and they're going to know the detail and things you need to improve on. So what the sort of suggestion is you take your laptop, if you've got one, into your mentor meeting and you have the training plan up, and your mentor logs onto a computer or logs onto their laptop and they have the target setting page up on Mosaic, okay? And that's how it will work best, because both then can be doing these things live. So we're going to review targets and hopefully tick them all off as being met. You're then going to discuss the training and literature using key questions that will be in the training plan. So your mentor won't be in all of your training. We're going to provide them with some prompts, things that you might want to discuss in that meeting. You can see that on Mosaic, so it might be a good idea before you go into your mentor meetings, have a little look so you know all the things they might ask you, and so you've made sure that you've got those things fresh in your head. Then you're going to set new targets for the following week. Now those targets will come from us centrally, so you're going to have a course target set every week that we will set, but also will then come from all the observations that you've had that week. So they will look at your formal observation, they'll look at the informal observation booklet, and it might be that behaviour's been a theme that's come up time and time again. That's what they will then set you a target on. Okay, so everybody will have a different target, because you're all on a different journey and you'll all be progressing and working on different things at different times. Okay. Set action for those targets, and we'll talk about it a little later, and then they'll check that Mosaic. So that is on the training plan. So again, making sure, and if your mentor misses a one set, it might be they've just forgotten it. So you go, oh, I learned this week, should we talk about it? Give them a little reminder, because they are also very busy and human too, they might make forget. And this year we're having a real push on deliberate practice. You may have heard about this before, or this may be something that's brand new. Deliberate practice is all about you being shown how to do something and having a chance to practice it before we throw you in front of those 30 lovely young people who can sometimes go to the jugular if we get something wrong. So things like, even like taking a register. It may seem really easy, but when you've got to use a piece of software you've never used before, you don't know the names. That's the one thing. You stand up there and you haven't looked at your list of names, then you can't pronounce some names. It's really, it's awful. So in your mentor meetings, having the opportunity to practice those things with your mentor, then giving you tips on this works really well when I do this. Now you have a quick go. That is what deliberate practice is all about. So we've trained your mentors on this, and this should be happening in your mentor meetings every week. So our model, go far, and the G stands for goal. So this is where you are going to look at that target for your week. What is your target? And not just what is your target, but what specifically are we looking at? So if I said to you, right, your target this week is to manage behaviour, where do I even start? Yeah, that is a massive target. And I might have a year 12 history class, and I also might have a year 7 history class. And what I might do in those two classes to manage behaviour could be very different. Okay, so the goal is going to be really broken down into really specific steps. So it might be one of your things would be to make sure you award 3 house points in your class to promote that positive classroom culture. Yeah, it's a really simple thing you can do, and you'll know exactly how to do that in every lesson, and your mentor can easily tick that off. So in your mentor meetings, you will set your goal, and that will then follow through into all your lessons that you are teaching that week. The O stands for opportunities to practice. This is where it's really awkward. Yeah, and we've all got to get over this awkward bit. But your mentor is going to demonstrate to you, just you and them, how to do that thing. So it might be they're talking about how to manage the flow of the class through the door. Yeah, because actually maybe the beginning of the lesson is really chaotic and they're all charging in and it's absolute chaos. They need to come in a bit more of a calm manner, and they might stand at the door and model that to you and get you to walk in as a pupil, and they're going to make you tie your uniform and make sure your bag is not on your back or whatever your rules are in your school. And then the awkward bit is you get up and you have a practice as well. Okay, to your mentor, and you'll feel like a wally, and it will be horrible for the first couple of times, but we'll all get over it in the end. Okay, but that practice is really important, because we always say, a surgeon, if someone's performing heart surgery, the first time they practice it isn't on a real person. okay? The first time you practice telling someone off or giving a sanction, we don't want that to be in front of 30 children that could make that really difficult for you. The idea is you practice it with your mentor and you might get it wrong. They'll be like, well, if you say that, this is going to happen. So what I would say is this, and then you practice it again and make sure you've got it right. So that when you have to do it in front of the class, it goes right. Okay, so that's the idea of deliberate practice. Your mentor will then give you some feedback. Yeah, they'll say that was really good, but maybe try this. And then you'll get to practice that again in the low stakes environment, and then you'll go and practice it in front of the class. Okay, so your mentor should be using this gold bar in every single mentor meeting, and it's part of that training plan again. So again, if they're not doing that, let us know, because it's really important you get that opportunity to practice. And this is new for our mentors this year. So we're all going to be learning together, but they have been trained on it. So please let us know if that isn't happening yet. Then the last one is that refine. So you'll come back after your lesson observation. We've had a bit of deliberate practice about how to manage behaviour. I've gone and taught some lessons. You come back and then we'll discuss, did it work? Yeah, what went well? What could we? How can we make it even better? And that's our deliberate practice model. So we spoke a little bit about target setting, and I said it's your mentor's responsibility to review and set these on Mosaic. Okay, so you cannot do that. Your mentor has to do it. And the only way we know you've made progress is by these targets being ticked off. So if it hasn't been done, your mentors will get an email from us to remind them at the end of the week to make sure it's been done. But if you can encourage your mentor in your mentor meetings to have their laptop up, it's just really easy if you should do it all in one go. The targets get written on top of all your lesson observation forms, okay? Because if you're lucky, maybe your mentor is the person doing all your observations, and in primary, it probably is the case, all right? But in secondary, you might have your whole department that might observe you at some point. And it's really important they know what your targets are, so they know when they're observing you what they're feeding back on. Because if we're honest, in September, next week, when you start teaching, there might be quite a few things don't go quite right in your lesson, yeah? But if the one thing you are focusing on is positive classroom culture and giving out those reward points and making sure you use praise all the time, and that goes really well, that's what they'll focus their feedback on. But they need to know what your targets are to be able to do that, okay? So please make sure that you write all your targets at the top of your feedback forms, because that really helps the observer when they are looking at you. Now, the first 3 weeks, we've made it really easy for you and your mentors, and we are going to centrally set all your targets, okay? So when you log on to Mosaic, your mentor, all they have to do is tweak some of the measurable actions, and they'll know exactly how to do that. But we are going to link it really clearly to our curriculum. So you'll be focusing on lesson planning and managing behaviour in the first couple of weeks, okay? From week 4, you will have one centrally set course target from us, and then your mentor will start writing their own target for you, okay? And that's when you start getting a bit of more individual personalisation of those targets that's based around exactly what you need to work on at that point in time. We, again, track targets, okay? So we will see if it's not happening, and then we will intervene as well. But again, keep talking to your hub lead, please, if there's any problems with any of that. So we talked about observations. We get those informal observations. Sorry, let's say informal, that's just information, beg my pardon. You'll get given a booklet, which either they can hand write in or there is a digital version. If you've got a number of people observing you, I know it's old school, but I think a paper booklet would probably be easier, because then you can just pass it from one person to the other and it keeps it all in one place. Okay, it's really short. And again, all the observers, whether they're meant or not, will be trained on this. But you'll have that. And it can be carried out, informal observation by any member of staff. Okay, ideally someone in subject, but it doesn't have to be if there's a reason why not. But it can be anybody. The formal observation, as I said, is once a week. That can be done digitally on your computer or on paper, but that should be carried out by your mentor. And the reason for that is they are setting your targets. They are the ones that should be seeing and giving that feedback, because they've been the ones that have trained on it. And if you're a salary trainee, it definitely should be your mentor, because it's the only time they're going to see you in that week. This is an example of a lesson observation form, and you can see here, this is where the course targets go, okay? And it'll be much easier if you just, even if your print is off your mentor, just digitally do this, you can just copy and paste from Mosaic, okay? But it's really important those top boxes get filled out, because they will literally tick off when they see those things happening in your targets, okay? It's your responsibility to fill this out, and it's your responsibility to print it off or email it to your mentor, or it might be you really going to put it in the shared area, whatever your agreement is, but it's your responsibility to do those things. You will have more lesson planning at a later date, so don't panic too much, but just from us, from our point of view, we come out and do observations, we really want to make sure this top box is filled out, so we can see what those targets are. So on Mosaic, which Katie will talk about later, there is a files section. Okay, it's a bit, what it uses is a Google Drive as the storage, and it can store all your documents. What it means is anything you put in files, we can also see. So we, every week, are going to ask you to upload your formal lesson plan and your formal observation form, okay? There's two reasons for that. We use it for evidence to see how you're getting on, and we use it to make sure, to quality assure your mentors' feedback they're giving you, and make sure that's good enough and that it's helping drive your progress forward. And also, if there's ever any issues with progress, we can go back and be like, oh, hang on a minute, your lesson plan isn't quite detailed enough, and that might be why you're finding this bit hard. So we can use it to unpick that and help you as well. The magic number here is 5. There should be a minimum of 5 observation forms and plans uploaded every half term onto Mosaic, okay, we'll be checking that's happening. And also the subject knowledge audit will get uploaded to these files as well, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, okay. Katie will show you where files are and how to settle those things up, but just so you know that that's where those things need to be put. So we never want to see a paper copy, it all just gets uploaded. If you've got a paper copy, it's really easy to scan it with your phone and upload the picture. That's absolutely fine, okay? But I would encourage for your form observations, your mentors to do it digitally, and it's much easier because you can straight away upload it and save you time. So this subject knowledge audit forms part of your final assessment, okay? As you can imagine, if you're a primary teacher, you've got to know a little bit about everything. If you're a secondary teacher, you've got to learn from probably year 7 all the way through to year 13, because even if you're not teaching it this year, you possibly could be teaching it in your ECT year, okay? So subject knowledge is something you're going to be developing all the time, and you are not expected to nail every part of subject knowledge for your subject this year, okay? That's completely, it's not going to happen. We're all still learning now, we're all teaching for sort of, 18 years. So don't worry about that, but it does, we are tracking your subject knowledge over the year, okay? We want to see that you are doing things to address any gaps you might have in subject knowledge. And that isn't your ability to teach it necessarily, but it's your ability to understand the subject knowledge itself. For a lot of us, we might not have studied our subjects since we're at university ourselves, which might have been a little while ago. So there will be things you'll need to brush up on, okay? And this will just help you identify what those things are. So it is a working document, which weekly you should be adding to, okay? We check them at every assessment point. If you leave it till the end of a term or half term to edit this document, you're going to have a lot to do. If you do it weekly, it won't be a lot, okay? So try and build it into your weekly routine, but this is done, because your mentor will also be asking you as well. And it helps you take ownership of your learning, and it helps to identify the areas of strength, but also those things you might want to improve on in terms of your subject knowledge. So we use a RAG grading for our SKAs, okay? So red is, I do not feel my content knowledge is secure. Basically, I don't really know much about this thing, yeah? So you might find at the moment, when you complete your SKAs, probably could be quite a lot of red, all right? And that's absolutely fine. You'll move it to amber if you're fairly confident in this area, but recognise that I need to enhance my knowledge to be ready to teach it. So maybe you know about it, but actually how I break that thing down, what the processes are involved in that thing, maybe I'm unsure about, okay? You'd make it green if evidence from my experience in the classroom, if you actually taught it and you're confident in your ability to actually teach that thing, you'd make it green. And then if you think, you know, I've nailed it, it's absolute, I've got this perfect, you'd make it purple. There might not be very much purple by the end of the year, but there might be some, which is great. So what we asked you to do before your first subject day is to complete the SKA for that first post-interview beginning of initial phase column. You don't need to write anything in the boxes for this time. But what we do ask you to do in this column is to rank grade where you think you are for subject knowledge. Okay, you will find your subject knowledge audit on Mosaic, which Katie will show you. So it might be something you want to start doing now to get yourself ready for that first day. Please don't worry if there is a lot of red on there. You're not being judged on any of that, okay? It's better you're honest in this document, and then your mentor and your subject tutor can really help you develop that subject knowledge, okay? If you put everything as green now, I don't think anyone will do that, because, you know, there'll still be things that you haven't done and covered ever, maybe, for at least a very long time. So that's on files in Mosaic, and you're just ragging the first column. You haven't got to put any comments in the boxes. It's literally you're making it just these coloured. All the instructions are also on the SKA when you download it, so you'll be able to find it. And then once you've completed it, have a little go uploading it onto Mosaic and see if we can put it on there, which is really easy, and Katie will show you how to do that. Is there any questions on that at the moment? Yeah. These are the sort of things we'll put in the bulletin. So we'll put a reminder, make sure you've done your SKA for your subject day on Friday or whatever it is, okay? So again, the bulletin will give you the tips and the reminders for these kind of things. So the last thing I want to just quickly talk to you about is your relationship with your mentor. Because as we said, they are going to be the most important people to you in school, okay? And building a good relationship is really, really important. The one thing that will make your time at schools easier is being really organised, okay? Because your mentors are all amazing, and they are all really excited to be your mentors this year. And they are going to, we know they're going to do an amazing job. We're so lucky with the mentors that we have in the schools that we worked with, but they are also really busy. So if you're unorganised and things don't get done when they need to, it's going to make their life harder as well. So the biggest tip I'd be is make sure you've got a diary, make sure you've got a planner, and make sure you know exactly the expectations of when they want things done. Yeah, be on time to your mentor meetings, all those kind of things really help to build those relationships. We say that lesson planning has to be handed to your mentors 24 hours in advance. Okay, especially in the infancy at the beginning, you know, you might think, oh, that's going to take me 5 minutes to do that, and your mentor's going to go, oh, that's going to take you at least 20. Yeah, and your lesson plan might not work, but they need time to be able to look at your lesson plan, read it, realise that what you planned isn't going to work, and then rather than let you teach a lesson that's going to fail, they can sit down and help you tweak it and make it better. But if you don't hand it into them, they can't look at it. Okay, and we do insist on 24 hours in advance. Okay, and that does mean if you're teaching on a Tuesday morning, email it to them on 9 o'clock Monday night isn't giving them time to look at it. Okay, it's 24-hour working hours, because they might choose to look at their emails in the evening. We all have different working patterns, but we don't want, that isn't an expectation. They shouldn't have to do outside of the working day. Okay, that'd be really good. Agree on communication ground rules. It might be your mentor is fine for you to have their mobile number, for you to WhatsApp them if you've got a question, and that might really work for you as your working relationship. Some mentors, that's my personal mobile. You're not using it unless it's an emergency. So just agree on those ground rules straight away will prevent any sort of miscommunication between what they expect and what you might expect. You might also not want them texting you at 9 o'clock at night saying, oh, just a thought, maybe you could bring in some, I don't know, pansies to plant tomorrow. No, I don't want that in my evening. Okay, so have those discussions straight off. Offer to help. Yeah, if you do some marking, you're going to be their favourite person. Yeah, so think about those things they might do in a day. It takes a long time, especially in the first couple of weeks. If you're especially a fee paying, you won't be teaching very much. So offer to mark some exams, offer to help them put up a display, whatever it might be. You will be their favourite person. take them a cup of tea to your mentor meeting. Yeah, that would be amazing. Just those little small gestures. You know, thank yous for when they've observed you and things like that. And get to know them, because they will be busy, but they are great people that are, you know, we've all been in your position because we're all trained to be teachers. So, you know, have those conversations with them. How was your weekend? All those kind of things, and would be great. Show empathy. Okay, they've all been told the same things, you know, they know how difficult your training year is, but they're also really busy people. So if they do drop a couple of balls and forget to do something one week, you know, we can all work around it, and there'll always be a solution to something, because they are busy. I don't want to, this is not a nag, but just a little reminder. I don't know if any of you realise this, but the teaching world is tiny. It's so small. I bet there's a lot of people in here that have got connections already that we don't even know about. So just think about as well how you talk about your relationship with your mentors and your schools, because sometimes we have had a few instances where things have got back to the schools that maybe haven't been too favourable, and it's just caused a little bit of a problem. So if you have got any issue with your schools or your mentors, anything is happening, earlier you tell us, the easier it is for us to sort it out with you. Okay, and we promise we will sort anything out, but come and speak to us so that we can deal with it, just so it doesn't cause any sort of ill feeling in schools. And I'm sure that won't be a problem anyway. And just thinking about your support. So if you are struggling, if you are, you know, finding things overwhelming, there's a whole host of things that we can do to help you. And there are a number of people that will help, okay? So your mentor possibly is your first port of call, okay? If things aren't working and, you know, relationships are breaking down, you've got your skip lead in school, talk to them as well, okay? Every hub will provide you with a pastoral coach, which would be someone you can go and talk to, not about lesson planning necessarily, but anything that might be happening outside of the work life that might be affecting how you're being able to cope with the demands of the course, okay? So speak to them as well. They are there to help you, and you will meet with them regularly. You've also got your amazing hub leads who have got a wealth of experience, so go and see them, okay, because they can help. And then if all else fails, the central team, we're here as well, so you can get in touch with any of us at any time. Just remember to not suffer alone, okay? We can and will support you. And, you know, we've trained probably thousands of trainees now. You know, whatever's happening with you, whatever you're struggling with, it won't be the first time it's happened, yeah? And whether it's really small, you think it's insignificant, we will be able to help you. So please make sure you do talk to us, okay? Anyone got any questions about anything? Everyone's too scared to say, that's fine. Right, I'm going to hand over to Katie now, who's going to demonstrate this lovely world of Mosaic to you. And we've got 12 minutes, and then we're on a roll, so you have the questions today.
Okay, so I'm going to talk you through exactly what we use Mosaic for first of all, and then I have made a video, but I think I'm going to go rogue and attempt to live demo, just because I think it might be more helpful. So I'll show you how to log in, I'll show you what your dashboard will look like once you have logged in, I'll show you how to access training course files, which is where you can get all of the documentation and the resources and materials of the course. I'll show you where your personal files are, where you can upload those lesson plans, motivation forms that Sam was talking about. Then I'll show you the training plan, which is very exciting. It's new this year, so we're massively thinking about it. So we'll show you the training plan. And then very briefly, I'm going to show you where to find all the viewpoints, which is where your assessment takes place. But I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, so I'll have further training on that later on. Okay? Right. Here goes. Don't want that one. So the website that you need is Mosaic, and it's Penrose Education. Okay. I am going to need a third arm here for the mic, can't I? Yeah. On your first login, it's the email address that you've registered with Teach Southeast, and for your first login, your password is tse.student. Now, if you want to have a go, then do. Don't worry if your login doesn't work, okay? If it doesn't work, when you meet with your hub lead later on, if you just let them know, they can make a note, and we can just go on and make sure that that account has been set up properly. And I'm going to demo it on the screen for today. So if you can't get on it right now, don't worry. We'll make sure that we get that sorted for you early next week, okay?
tse.student, and it's all lowercase.
Shall I tell you again? Okay. Okay, so once you log in, this is your dashboard. So on this front screen here, you will have any kind of upcoming things that you still need to action or to do or to deal with. So you'll have your training plans here. This is review points, and below here you'll have your targets that your mentor has set you. Okay, and all the ones that I've got on the screen here are just demo ones, just to show you. Okay, so yours might look slightly different to this. On the left-hand side here, you've got the tabs that allow you to navigate your way around the platform. So the first one that we'll look at is files. Okay, so if we click into files, you've got two folders, course files and Mosaic evidence folder. Course files is all of your course materials. Okay, so anything that you need to access for your training, you can find in course files. And you either need to go into the primary 24/5 folder or the secondary 24/5 folder. Okay, and in there you will see that you will be able to access all of the slides from your training, all of the stuff from induction is in there. So if you have managed to access it, you can see that you can access all the slides and materials from today. Internet's being a bit slow. There we go. Key literature, stuff about IPAPs, everything that you need is in that folder. At the bottom, that key documents folder is where you'll be able to find all of the lesson planning forms, the lesson observation forms, all of that kind of thing as well in these teaching templates and forms. The SKAs are here as well, okay? So course files is basically where you go if there's any kind of material that you need, okay? You can find it all in there. The other folder in here is Mosaic evidence folder. So whereas course files is a folder that everyone can access, okay, they're resources for all trainees, your Mosaic evidence folder, only you can access that folder. It's linked to your account that you have linked when you set up your Mosaic account, and it will talk you through how to do that when you first log in. And this folder sits, as Sam was saying, in Gmail normally, in your Google Drive as a folder called Mosaic. And in there, you are going to be uploading your weekly observation forms that your mentor has completed, your weekly lesson plans that you have completed, with a folder in each term for each week, okay? And you remember that Sam said the golden number was 5. Yeah, every half term you should have at least 5 lesson plans that are formal lesson plans that are completed and 5 formal observation plans uploaded as part of your evidence, okay? So we've sort of started this off for you in term 1 with week 1, 2 and 3, and then you'll add a folder by clicking on this button here. Yeah, so you'll add week 4 and week 5 and week 6. And make sure that you keep that up to date. I really recommend that, a bit like Sam was saying with your SKA, you make it part of your weekly routine when you've had your observation to get that uploaded, and that you don't leave it all, because you have to have those there ready when you're assessed at the end of the term. And if you have to go back through, find the lesson that you did that week, find the corresponding observation form, it gets really faffy and takes ages. Whereas if you just do it each week as part of your routine, it really doesn't feel like much of a chore, okay? So that's files, okay? So everything that you're sharing with us and everything that we're sharing with you happens through that folder on Mosaic. The next tab is curriculum. You can click into that and have a look if you want to. It just outlines the curriculum. And then the next one is the training plan. Very exciting, massive geeky moment. So the kind of rationale, if you like, behind the training plan was that we wanted to have your training for the week clearly set out in one place so that all stakeholders, all of the people who are involved in training you can see what your journey of training has been that week. Yeah, so your mentor can see what you've done in centralised training with us, but they can also see what you did in your subject training and what you did in your skip lead in-school training. They can see what your key takeaways from training were, so that in your mentor meeting, they can look up and say, oh, I see that you were really interested in this aspect of positive classroom culture, and talk to you about it. Because what's really important
is that the curriculum is integrated through all aspects of your training. It's not helpful to you if what you do with us in your centralised training and what you do in subject training and what you do in your skip-lead training and what you do with your mentor aren't connected. Yeah, they've got to tie together with that curriculum focus that Sarah was talking about, so that you're taking all that training and that reading and that learning and that knowledge, and then you're putting it into practice in a meaningful way. So that's the rationale behind the training plan. So when you go on and you click into it, you'll see at the top, you've got the curriculum foci. So as Sam said, we're focusing very much on E and F to start with, which is that positive classroom culture and lesson planning as you start on your teaching journey. You will then see a box that lists the training sessions that you're going to have that week in your centralised training in the morning. And then there's a box here with bullet points in where you can put your key takeaways. Now, remember what Sam said. If there's a box and it lets you type in it, you need to type in it. Yeah, so this box you can type in. Okay, so in there, you're just going to really briefly just bullet point a few key things you took from that GPS, that centralised training that you had on that morning. Okay, and you might even do this during the training. Yeah, so you're doing it as you're going along. So it shouldn't be an arduous task. You'll also have on there a space to just bullet point what your key takeaways were from the reading that you did to prepare for that training session, okay, which will be shared with you in advance. Again, keep it brief, okay, really brief bullet points, but it's going to be useful to you then if you've got that when you're in that training session and your trainer says, oh, so we're going to look at CO. What were your key takeaways from CO? And then you can think, oh, I don't know, I read that like 5 days ago and I can't remember my own name since then. But you can look back on there and find your bullet points and then you'll remember, and it'll help just to make that training really fruitful. So if you think back to that kind of cycle diagram that Sam showed you earlier, your training week starts with that general professional studies, GPS, that centralised training, okay? And then the next step of the thread is to take that general pedagogy on behaviour for learning or assessment for learning or you know, kind of whatever general teaching practices you've been learning about, and then put it into your specific subject if you're secondary or different subjects if you're primary, and look at how that would look in the context of those subjects, okay? So the next part of your training plan here will outline what you should cover in your subject training that week, okay? So whatever subject you're in, whoever your subject tutor is, you should be getting the same deal, yeah? And this is really important for consistency across all training. So it will show you what you should cover in your subject training, and then there's a box there with bullet points again for you to just summarise briefly, possibly during that subject training, what your key takeaways were again, okay? The next step of integration, you've gone from general to subject. Now we need to put this into the context of your school. So it might be, for example, that you've been looking at behaviour and positive classroom culture and positive behaviour for learning strategies. You've then gone and looked at how you might do that differently in different subjects, because in PE, that's going to look quite different from maths, for example. And then the next step is to say, right, well, what does this look like in my particular placement school? Because actually, each school will have its own behaviour policy, which is different from another school. They will have their own rewards and sanctions. They will have their own processes by which they manage that behaviour. So it's really important that you understand actually, right, what does this look like in my school? And that's what your skip lead will talk you through. So again, here in the training plan, it will outline what you'll cover in your skip lead training that week. And there's space for you to very briefly just bullet point during that training what your takeaways were. Then the final stage of integration is with your mentor, yeah? Because you're then going to take all of those strategies that you've learned from those 3 aspects of integration, and you're going to sit down with your mentor and you're going to say, right, this is what I've learned. I want to put this into practice. How do I do it? And your mentor's going to talk that through with you during your mentor meeting. And during the mentor meeting, you should have the training plan open, as Sam said, and you can be going through and ticking as your mentor goes through each stage of the meeting, okay? Here, there are points that you can discuss with your mentor in that meeting, okay? And there's space to summarise what you've discussed and what your kind of key points were that you've discussed in that mentor meeting,
Okay, and you're then going to go from that with your targets and you're going to put it into the classroom, yeah, which is what all of that is building towards, all of that training, all of that preparation, okay? The final part of the training plan then is getting you ready for the next week, yeah, as if that wasn't enough, yeah, that's 1 week, okay? But once you get to that stage, you're then going to say, right, what do I need to be doing to get ready for my next GPS session? And this bottom part enables you to have like a to-do list that you can tick off, basically, so that you know that you've done everything that you need to do that week, so you're ready for your next training session. And remember that your training week starts on the day that you have your general professional studies, okay? So this will include things like pre-reading that you need to do, any kind of resources that you might need to access in advance and have a look through. There are some parts on here that will say things like PGCE only. So if you're not doing the PGCE, you don't need to do those things, but just tick them off. Yeah, just tick them anyways, even if you haven't done them. And that will enable you then here to click save and return, and that will show that you've completed that training plan. Okay, you do need to tick all the boxes. You do need to put some text in all the boxes that it lets you, and then it will let you save it. Okay, and as Sam said, it's your responsibility to make sure that's completed each week. All right, so that's your training plan. When you do log into Mosaic, you'll see the first one on there, which is this one's training plan 0, induction, which has a bit less in it, just because it's the first week and you haven't got into school yet. So before your first training session, which takes place next week, if you can make sure that you've managed to get logged on, ask your hub lead if you have any problems with it, and complete training plan 0, that will mean that you're then ready for training plan 1 on that first day of training. Going back to the tabs on the left-hand side then, here you've got a tab for targets. This is the tab your mentor will use during your mentor meeting to set your targets. So you complete the training plan, your mentor writes and adds your targets, okay? So you don't need to worry about this because this isn't your job, but just so that you know that's what that is for. And then the final tab I want to show is this review points here, which is where you will access your assessment templates, okay? We're going to have lots more training on those things early on in this first half term, so I'm not going to go into them, but that is where you will access things for your assessments, okay? Don't want that one. Okay, right. We're going to take a break. It's a lot of information already, isn't it? We're only in the morning. Just a few additional things before we move. First of all, please make sure that you have signed in. If you haven't yet done so, out there. Remember, if you have any compliance or finance questions, then you can find Amy and Catherine out here, and there are lists over there by Sarah. Sarah's waving. Lists stuck up on a board there of people who need to see them about compliance. So if you're not sure, have a little check on the list. There's a few copies of them dotted around, and make sure that you speak to them. Wait, pause, wait, I know, we're desperate for a cup of tea. Importantly, after the break, primary trainees at the back, you are going to be moving, okay? So if you're a primary trainee, after the break, don't come back in here, take all of your stuff, and you are going to be in the training suite, which is the building that's directly kind of straight across the car park from here, but we'll make sure that there's lots of us outside directing you where to go, okay? So we're going to break until 11 o'clock. And then if you're secondary, you're back in here. If you're primary, you're in the training suite. I just said. Yeah.
Hi, sorry. We have these lanyards which you will need to wear every time you go to your training hub and every time you're on site at SJP or over at St David's in Guildford if you're in Surrey or at your hub on the designated day of your training day. We're just about to move those through to where you signed in earlier, so you can make sure you pick one up and wear it every time you're on your training site, please. Okay, thank you.
If you just grab one before the end of the day, that's fine. Right, see you back at 11. Sorry, 1 second. Primary, if you want to go out to the training suite now, you can. They've set the tea and coffee up over there, so you might just get more biscuits. Oh, I can't. No, you're fine. No, that's okay. I'm harmony. Right, yeah. Yes, I know. I'm scared of sleep. So I don't know if it's happening late. That's like because everyone seems to be I've had repeatedly, and then I finally got an email which actually changed. If you haven't replied to my message, I promise you, I've got some time for you. There's plenty of emails they sent me, but I know the ones from you. So I'm not, don't worry about it. What I'll do is I'll ask my colleague Alex, which I've sent the email, to resend it to you. If you can find some. But there's no, it's been very quiet, and I've started to have, yeah, everything on the website. Yeah, that's okay. And then obviously I haven't heard, I don't really know. One thing, the one email that she was my phone. Then I recognized her and she said, "What do you start with?" And I said, "I replied to her about that and I have a interview. It should be next week." So I haven't heard any right. So I have a plan. So I emailed her and said, "I don't know about the start date. I don't know. I haven't heard that from her." So I think no, it's not. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so I will send her an email in I would as well because I feel that gives us some really after training. Right, no, it should be next week because if you can, it would wait for you to be in there. Is they do like say on training my brain is yeah. But I haven't wait to make it work. No, I want to be prepared. It's quite quick to us, so don't worry about it. Because it's okay. But I will I've got to yeah, I will send her an email today and just ask her to get in touch with you and arrange those Wednesdays are just going to be extra that you're going to have to do. Yeah, that's fine. But so that's why I thought when until because they don't sound like they're ready. That's yeah, it's like yeah, because when I think we think your mentor is going to be we're still waiting that was the day that I read to when you were ready to which is so nice. Thank you. That's what I know. It is going to be a bit late. And that's absolutely fine as long as everyone getting hold of you. So I will another later next week. Thank you so yeah. The only best thing Yeah, just put them on the secondary table.
I have my DBS over the summer.
Yeah.
Who do I need to give that to?
You don't need to show that to us, just take it into school on the first day.
Fine.
Okay?
Thank you.